All right. Welcome back. We're back. What's up, guys?
What's going on, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
So we're back after a couple weeks. We skipped last recording last week. You know, uh, we did meet as a partner group, but we kind of decided that we wanted to do a private call. We had a lot of kind of specific numbers and trigger points and things like that we discussed that were we just wanted to kind of keep private. We'll talk about a lot of that stuff today, though. I think in the future we'll probably put out a short little update, even on weeks like that, just to make sure that everybody's still kind of moving forward in thought and understanding. Um, we have a lot to talk about today. A lot is going on. Kind of our brief little comments before the recording kind of hinted towards a bunch of stuff, a bunch of moving parts, a bunch of chaos, a bunch of things that we're going to talk about. But I want to get into one of the main things that we've been really eyeing over the last several months. One of the bigger, more significant trades that we've been a part of, and part of the reason that we held a private call last week as well. But the premise here is that ETH has moved pretty significantly. I think in the last 3 months, we've doubled the dollar price of ETH, maybe even more than doubled it, whereas Bitcoin has largely kind of stayed the same. So, man, I would actually say, Ro, do you want to kick it off? Do you want to give us a little bit of an idea of how we framed the approach to this recent trade, why, how things kind of shook out, and what's the point of talking about it today? How did it work out?
Yeah, totally. So I think the impetus of the trade originated from just conversations with you guys, just about like what is ETH, what do we expect from it, and so begin like towards the end of last year, everybody hated ETH. Nobody wanted anything to do with it. Everything was about Bitcoin or DeFi. And yeah, I think kind of towards the middle or the end of the quarter, March, early April. I'm sorry. Kind of March-ish. We were just thinking, like seeing what ETH is, could it be bigger than Bitcoin? And I think we had a lot of discussions kind of around that point, and we realized that it was very much there is the possibility that it could be bigger than Bitcoin. We talked about so many different analogies why and anyway, technically speaking, we saw an opportunity, saying, hey, on a high time frame, we like the entry point, kind of in the middle of February, and we definitely kind of experienced a little bit of drawdown from that point on. But yeah, I think we decided to take all the Bitcoin we had as a company, and put it into ETH at the time. Maybe not all. We did reserve some for our trading wallet, but kind of all the cold storage that we had, we decided to kind of go all into ETH, not necessarily as ETH maxis, but just in the belief that ETH has more utility than Bitcoin does right now, but also from a technical perspective, that it was a good buy. It was on the verge of breaking out. And fast forward a couple months, a couple days ago, we hit our trigger, which was just kind of conservatively selling half on a double. And so we returned our Bitcoin to our vault. And it was definitely, for me personally, and I'd like to hear you guys' opinions on this, but for me personally, it was like bittersweet because one, I think it was an amazing trade and we did exactly what we wanted, in, just doubling our Bitcoin position, or or doubling our assets with our Bitcoin. But secondarily, it was bittersweet because I do think, maybe there is a significant pullback to come, but I do think ETH is still worth more than Bitcoin. It should be valued at larger than Bitcoin. And so I was like, oh, I wish we still had all that ETH. And we still have a great chunk of it, but like I do wish we still had more ETH.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. We have for a long time had pretty strong conviction in an evolving ecosystem beyond Bitcoin. And if you look at ETH over the last 3 years or so, it's gone through a lot. It's been targeted. It's regrouped. Um, but it's very useful in the world now. And I think that over the last few months, we found ourselves in a position to be able to anticipate a run on the price and just an increase in demand for Ethereum. And so, yeah, we did. We took a big chunk of Bitcoin, moved it into Ethereum, and you kind of tell just from looking at the Bitcoin chart that move was the right move. And to take a little bit of credit, we did. We anticipated that happening. It doesn't always happen that way, but for us as a company, it was a really gutsy. Big ball kind of bet. It really was based on our history and the way that we like to do things conservatively. So that's pretty exciting. To Rohit's point, it's always anytime you make a big move or something works out, it is human nature to kind of second guess yourself afterwards. It's like, oh man, what if I let it ride a little bit more, or what if we had put more of it in. It's still going up. But then again, we also did know and understand that that's a possibility as well. So I think that what we did here was we took an understanding and a theory and an idea that we believed in. We found a good opening and an opportunity where it was going to play out. And we put our money where our mouth was. We put our money where our thoughts were. We put our money where our conviction was. And so all of that stuff takes work, and it takes guts to be able to do that. And it also takes guts to be able to stick to those convictions and stick to the decisions that you made in a previous state of mind. To leave the casino whenever you've won. And so for us, we defined where we needed to win and what that was. And when we did, we stuck with that, and that way we won. And that's what we wanted to do. So, I think that takes guts as well. And that's why we're here. And that's why I would consider that a very successful trade. I think it was, I heard it. I'll give credit to George Soros just because that's what's coming up in mind right now. But it doesn't matter he said, it doesn't matter if you win or if you lose. What matters is how much money you make when you win and how much money you lose when you lose. So you got to take your wins with your losses. But allocation is extremely, extremely important. So I consider this a really successful trade. I'm really proud of the way that we approached this. It took a lot of guts. It was painful at times, but it did work out. Check it off as a win and on to the next. So those are my thoughts. Tyler, what you got, man? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I'm with Roe. It's bittersweet. These things can go like, this is like no other time in the world. It's like there are other global markets, but like the people that have access to trade those global markets are few. It's like this is the first time that like a global market is like actively traded by everybody in the world. And even before this stuff existed, price could always go higher than people, than you can imagine. With this crypto markets, like I think we're going to see over the next year, the prices of these things are just going to go tremendously high. And it's like, I agree. We made the rational decision, and we took half of our, we took our money out when we doubled it, and we can let the rest ride. But the thing is ETH isn't going to go away. And, at the end of the day, I could see us always holding on to some and always having some exposure. So, and there's always going to be dips to buy, but I agree. Right with Ro. Right now, ETH just has so much more utility, value, economics, network effects, institutional buy-in, demand. I mean, it's the king at the moment. It just isn't priced that way.
Yeah, I totally agree. Part of the reason we did it also was because like the fundamental drivers behind ETH that weren't fully grasped by the market yet. EIP 1559 was announced several months ago, but like it was just another improvement protocol. It wasn't like this huge shift. And once people started understanding that and the narrative kind of started getting out, you saw some volume in ETH, but you didn't see price movement. And so that was a pretty big driver. Coupled that with like ETH 2.0 and staking coming around the corner. But also, just to pat ourselves on the back, it is sometimes pretty challenging to come together as a team, a team of people to get us to all agree on something of this magnitude. And so, yeah, I definitely applaud everybody involved in this. It was very much a conviction play for all of us, and it's awesome when these things work out.
Yeah, I'll attest to that. It can all, it's always difficult to take three different approaches, combine them into one cohesive strategy. I mean, that's always going to be a challenge. But usually, when you get to that point, hopefully, not usually, hopefully, and usually, you get a pretty bulletproof strategy. All right, so Ethereum has done well for us. We sold half on a double. Ethereum may continue to run. Any thoughts on why? We covered it a little bit, but why and where? I've seen Ethereum to 6,000. I've seen Ethereum to 10,000. I've seen Ethereum to 17,000. We understand the utility of it, but what is everybody else understanding now, and where will that kind of cap out? Where will that understanding bleed over into other things, DeFi, other things?
Yeah, that's tough for me to answer. Like you can call as many tops as you want, but just because you call it top doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be the case. The primary thing for me with regards to ETH is it's unlike anything we've ever seen, primarily because you have just huge changes to like the monetary policy of ETH with EIP 1559. Right now, the miners' fees go all to the miners, right now all of that goes to the miners. But once EIP 1559 goes live, I believe in July, all of those fees are going to be burned. I think within like the last day or two, there was a stat that came out with all the volume that's going on ETH right now, where like if EIP 1559 was live, over $100 million of ETH would have been burned, which, like, how do you even value something like that, given conventional metrics where like this this token, this coin, didn't have that previously. And so how do you value that? And so, yeah, I don't know exactly what the top would be, but I do think it's closer to 20K than it is to, I think 8K is a good like first target sort of thing. But I do think 20K is definitely a possibility, kind of circa 2017 Bitcoin run.
Are we talking about tops for this year? I mean, because I echo what Rose said. Like, I mean, I think 20K is extremely possible for this year, but depending on what Bitcoin does, I think 80K is possibly possible this year for Ethereum. I mean, I don't think it quite gets to 100, but it's possible. And the reason is because EIP 1559 going live while staking is in effect, but not live. The supply is constantly getting locked up and locked up and locked up and locked up and locked up. And that can't move. They can't sell that. They can't transfer that. That's locked. But if the transactions are being burned because of DeFi like crazy, then it's going to create a huge supply crisis before staking goes live. And so the price can go to 80,000. The price could go to 100,000. The price could go to 200,000. I mean, we don't know how high it could go, but I mean, I think 20,000 is a pretty realistic like target.
I guess it all depends on the price of Bitcoin. Well, it doesn't all depend on the price of Bitcoin, but it's relevant. Yeah, and whenever you have a systematically programmed economic share in the form of a crypto token, and you change the economic laws of physics, you change the way that it's created or burned, you add significant elements to the existing system, it almost becomes a new system in a lot of ways. And if you think about what's happening with Ethereum, I think that you could also say that the people who are holding it have changed and the purpose of it has changed. And it's almost like it's not what it used to be. It's not going to be recognizable to what Ethereum was years ago. I mean, it will in some ways, but for a number 2 market cap coin to evolve to that degree compared to Bitcoin, it's pretty impressive, and I think pretty fitting. So if Ethereum continues to rise, is that what leads the rest of the market upwards? And is that the giant, is that the big force that creates the arena for everything else to float? Is that leading alt season for the next little bit here?
I'll just give my 2 cents on that. I do think ETH has made a tremendous run so far. We got pretty close to $5,000, $4,500 or so. Everybody, you got to keep in mind, ETH was $20 just over a year ago, maybe a year and a quarter ago, which is mind blowing. That's a hell of a run. Personally, I would love to see ETH pull back here. Right. And that's very biased because we totally just exited half of our position. So yeah, I would love to see ETH pull back here. But again, coming back to these fundamental drivers, ETH was inflationary and is inflationary right now, but it is going to be deflationary in the next couple months. Or it is very likely to be deflationary in the next few months, based off current volume. So I'm a big believer in TA and technical analysis, because I think a chart basically reflects everything all the relevant information about a token. And so it's hard to view technical analysis right now on ETH just because there are different fundamental drivers at play. But from the charts I'm looking at, it seems to me that there are other opportunities to diversify out of ETH right now into specifically DeFi and some of these other names, some of these other more prominent, larger cap names, where just money starts to flow out of the big caps and goes to the mid caps. So yeah, I do think there is opportunity elsewhere, but ideally, ETH kind of takes a breather here so it doesn't keep taking all the liquidity from the market, just like Doge did. Just like Doge did to start the year.
Tyler, you got any final thoughts on ETH or where we're at in the ETH? I mean, I think you laid out pretty clearly that you don't think 20K or a run from here, just primarily based on supply, is out of the question.
I think we're due for a good pullback, just because people need to take profit. Today was tax day. Today was the tax filing day. And so Elon, I think he timed his tweet about Bitcoin, and everything kind of worked out from a fundamental and a technical perspective. Pretty like how it looked like it should have. So I think we see a pullback on ETH, whether immediately or over the next, like we might have a couple more days left in the rally as like a fake out to get some late buyers. But hopefully we see a pullback and people start diversifying into DeFi, like Ro was saying. And then that'll give a good ETH buying opportunity. But yeah, hopefully a pullback in the next maybe like week or two.
Okay. Yeah. Pullbacks, I think I agree with you guys. Pullbacks are healthy. ETH has had a nice little run. A pullback here would be good to kind of keep things going. It's a good time to kind of jump into our next little topic. There's a lot going on in the market, so I will try to kind of open up the doors to a discussion in a certain way. I'm going to frame this as the Bitcoin, Doge, Elon market complex. We've got Bitcoin, Elon, Tesla, recent investment in Bitcoin, pretty public. We've got Elon's little playground in Doge that he's made for himself. And we've got the recent tweet, and I guess it was yesterday or last night, where it seems as if Elon is surprised or shocked that there's been a recent spike in fossil fuel energy use for Bitcoin mining and transactions. So this right here is the message that was posted. And what struck me about this message was, and I think everybody else about this message is, yeah, well, you should have known about this when you bought it. You probably do know about this. He recently responded a few hours ago with that other tweet that you see on the screen, kind of bottom right there, where he pointed out that there has been a recent spike. And I don't know if that correlates to the recent influx back to the United States from China. That could be related. I don't know that. But there's a few different things going on here. He did move the market pretty significantly. He's been moving the market. Obviously, the Doge market. The Doge market has become a big enough market to where it's become relevant in the overall market. But with his tweet about Bitcoin yesterday, he moved the price of Bitcoin, I think, at some point up to 20%. And right now, we're down a solid 12%, I would say, from that tweet or around that time. So I'm defining this for now as the Bitcoin Doge Elon market complex. Does anybody know what the fuck is going on?
So somebody was making the case that like Elon has always been a supervillain. Like he's not a superhero. He's always been a supervillain. And that like crypto people have just been like cheering him on, and that now he's about to be the supervillain in crypto. To where it's like he's gonna just slosh markets until they're regulated. I don't know. The guy's fun.
Yeah. So I don't think Elon did anything personally. He just tweeted FUD. I don't think he himself moved the market however many percent, 10 to 20% or whatever. Like technically speaking, I think Bitcoin has been just ranging here, right? And it really hasn't done anything else. Like it's still ranging, as you can see from the chart. Nothing has changed. And so personally, yeah, I think the market was okay for a pullback. Like it's not something we weren't expecting, right? Why are we comfortable getting rid of some Bitcoin for ETH and all this stuff is because, we are bullish on other things relative to Bitcoin. I still kind of have my stance from several weeks ago where like a 40% drawdown from the top is at like 38K. And that's just like, I think that's becoming more and more likely now. And if we get it, that's like all in Bitcoin sort of thing for me, as I've made the case several times. So yeah, as far as Elon and Bitcoin, it's honestly just a bad look for him, for Tesla at least. It's like, did you guys do any due diligence prior to buying $1 billion worth or $1.5 billion worth? But no, I do think there's something bigger at play, and I know I tweeted in our Discord just before the call started. I think it's very possible that Elon forks Doge into a proof of stake. Into proof of stake, and like he's trying to make it number one. Like he's trying to get it to the number one currency by market cap in the world.
Let me ask something. What is I mean, do we have any idea at this point, any better idea now after more days, more weeks have gone by and Elon's still dabbling in Dogecoin? He's recently announced that he's collecting Dogecoin from, as a part of SpaceX to send Doge 1 Space Odyssey up to the moon. Seems kind of like a publicity stunt type of thing, because to the knowledge of the public, it has nothing to do with Dogecoin. In fact, it's really just, we're going to launch a satellite, we're going to call it Doge 1, and we're going to accept Dogecoin in order to, if you want to launch something up there. But what's the real thing here? What is Doge now? And what is that going to be? Is it the space currency? Is it something that he wants everybody to accept, whether it be sports teams to go watch a game or to buy stuff online? What is the significance of first meme in space? What have we just done as a space bearing civilization by sending the first meme to space? What have we just done?
I don't know. Like it's, again, Elon's playing 4D chess and we're all playing checkers. There's no way to tell what his plan is. But I do think he's not. He reminds me of Sam Bankman-Fried. Like he's just going to throw a ton of resources behind Doge, and he has the resources to do it. So I don't think he's gonna like. There's gonna be volatility, sure, but I don't think he's just gonna like let this go. He's got SpaceX. He's doing these missions. He's tweeting about it. One thing we haven't talked about is SNL. That was this past weekend. What did you guys think about SNL and his performances? Um, I watched some clips. I didn't watch it live or anything, but I did watch some clips, and it seems like on my feed, the reaction that I was seeing was pretty underwhelming. It wasn't for a lot of the people I follow. But at the same time, I do recognize, especially in one segment, he said it's an unstoppable force and it's going to be the future currency of the world or something like that. So when I hear stuff like that from Elon, I'm just like, okay, like, look at what you've done. I'm not going to doubt you. Again, will there be volatility? Yes. But over time, when you have somebody that powerful saying something that concrete, you got to listen. I mean, you have to like take a step back and say, no matter what your beliefs about Dogecoin are, you got to like listen.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Bitcoin is the Trojan horse and Dogecoin is the threat dressed as a Trojan horse. Because Dogecoin, with its unlimited supply, presents a unique, basically it presents a different system to where you can't just print the unlimited amount of money. You just have to learn how to reallocate. You have to learn how to reallocate and you have to solve problems. And the thing is, I think the reason the SNL was underwhelming is because I think Elon wants everybody in the world to know about Dogecoin. I think he wants everybody in the world to be aware of what Dogecoin is. But I think that he doesn't want to draw so much attention to it to where Dogecoin is regulated, right? Like he wants to be able to still lay on it's a joke. It's a joke. And it's like, that's how he's going to get it. Like everybody's going to have it. Everybody's going to trade it. It's going to be listed everywhere. It's going to be listed on every exchange. There's going to be Doge pairs. Doge is going to be cross chain. If he switches it to proof of stake, which I don't know if he will or if he won't, but it's like he's kind of like sneakily pushing out a global currency with under the like guise of being unregulated. So I don't know. I mean, he could be setting Doge up to be some intergalactic unit of value.
I think the way I'm thinking about Doge right now is like the US dollar, except it's just instead of there being the euro and the yuan and all these other currencies, it's just the dollar of the internet. And the dollar can be inflationary. It can, like ultimately lose value over time, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Everybody needs like something to spend digitally. Nobody's spending their Bitcoin. Nobody wants to give up their Ethereum. It could very well be a unit of account that people kind of measure their Bitcoin in or their whatever in. And so, yeah, I don't know. It could kind of become a sort of digital stable coin, if you will, where, yeah, people will trade it, but over time, the volatility just won't be there. Like that. I think that's to me like what he's trying to do. It's not about necessarily value. It's about like functionality. Like what does crypto need right now? It does need an algorithmic stablecoin that is, verifiably safe. and everything's backed by the US dollar, but how valuable is the US dollar right now? Or like USDC is backed by the US dollar. So there are these other components outside of the crypto digital realm, that all of these other assets take into account. But yeah, like something like Doge could very well be just like cash, and inflationary. It's not going to like be an investment necessarily, but it's just something you hold and kind of interact with.
Bitcoin dominance going down to 40%, I think is what I'm looking at right now, 41%. We're below the 50% mark. We have been for a little while. Doge is around the number 6 market cap after this last sell-off. Tether has retaken. This battle is just incredible to me. You see Tether flip Bitcoin, Tether flip Doge, and Doge flip Tether. And like, I'm just looking at, that little battle. At the same time, all the other alts are gaining on Bitcoin. I think what I saw was if you look at the USD, Bitcoin, and alt charts over the last 24 hours, today being Thursday, after that tweet from Elon kind of sent markets haywire, it looks really, really bad. And if you look at the Bitcoin charts, they're not that bad. They actually held up. A lot of stuff held up really, really nicely. A lot of times you'll see Bitcoin sell off and then alts sell off in a little bit more extreme manner. I think what I'm looking at is I'm seeing the dollar value take a bigger hit than the Bitcoin value relatively, which I still feel pretty strong about for alt season. But where does Doge need to be if it is going to be the internet currency? If it is going to be in some way, the fun thing that we need, if it is going to be less volatile, stabilized, and perhaps even pegged psychologically to the US dollar, or even psychologically and quantitatively at some technical level to Bitcoin, for that stability and volatility mitigating factor. Where does Doge sit with what Elon has planned for it, with where it's going? Does it deserve to be a top 5? Does it deserve to be above Tether? Does it deserve to be right up there with Ethereum as maybe a number 3 market cap, which it did jump up to at one point? Does it deserve to be, if it truly is the people's currency, in a 20% Bitcoin dominance world? Does it deserve to be, up there considering maybe a flippening with Bitcoin? Bitcoin's market cap continues to go down, and right now that it's sitting at $1 trillion, and Ethereum sitting at half of that, and we're a little under that. It's like 950 billion and 450 billion, and we're talking about the people's money. So
I mean, as far as like just thinking about the real world, there's nothing larger than cash. Just add up all the money in the world. That's definitely the biggest asset there is. Gold doesn't come close. Stock markets don't come close. It's got more liquidity than anything else. So yeah, I mean, if Bitcoin is gold, digital gold, and Ethereum is like this digital stock market, what underlies both of those? Cash. And if that's the play for Doge, that makes sense for it to be bigger than both of those combined.
See, I disagree with that. I mean, I agree with it. Cash is worth more than gold, but we didn't really live in a data world, in the world where cash was underpinning everything. And since data has been introduced, we've been aided to very cheap data, but like that data has been being collected by Amazon, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, and they've been able to resell that data over and over and over and over again, and people are willing to pay exchange cash for data like all day long. And I think what we're moving into is a world where data is worth a lot more than cash. And I think that whereas Dogecoin could be worth more, like, so unless everybody decides to be nice and use Bitcoin for security and peg everything to the Bitcoin blockchain at some point for like snapshots, then Bitcoin's going to get flipped. It'll get flipped by ETH, right? And it'll probably get flipped by Doge, unless, like I said, unless everybody decides they want to be nice and use Bitcoin's computational power for security. But like, I don't know if like if Doge flips ETH, I only see it being temporary, because the amount of people that would have Doge would venture into the ETH ecosystem at some point. Like, and I don't think Doge is going to get the developers from the ETH ecosystem. I don't think ETH developers are just going to give up and quit. So I could see Doge flipping Bitcoin, but I don't know if I could see it flipping ETH. And if it did, I only see it being temporary.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, you know, kind of what you're saying there is that the value in building this new world is in ETH, and that has more value than the reservoir in a build in a world that's being built like Bitcoin. So that ETH should naturally flip Bitcoin. And as the internet currency or the cash of this new ecosystem rises up to approach both of those really important segments of this foundations of this ecosystem, right? The liquidity and the safety, the security that's provided that allows people to come, and then the Ethereum side of things, the bricks, the ability to build anything. And you know, you brought up a good point. I think it makes sense to me about, you know, two different worlds. You have Ethereum developers, you have people building this new world, and then you have the fun side of things with Doge and the consumers, you know, the world's new consumers. And so that's kind of where the cash stuff comes in. But at some point, I believe that those two worlds will collide. It's more likely that the worlds of Ethereum and Doge collide than the worlds of Doge and Bitcoin. There may be a psychological peg there based on value and what the collective world has and the world's institutions have, and then what percentage or variant of that exists in cash for consumers to participate. But the bridge there is Ethereum. It's what will we build? What will attract the consumers?
Okay, new question. So if we get Bitcoin, like, not if, there's Bitcoin, there's Doge, and there's Zcash on top of Ethereum, like by being wrapped. Okay, so if that happens and Ethereum like wins it, right? Then what, like, and you can use Bitcoin, Dogecoin, or Zcash just the same as like a unit of value on Ethereum, and Ethereum is gas. Like who, like, where do they rank in value? Is Bitcoin still more valuable than Zcash?
So that's a really tough question, because it's very much how does the world progress forward? To your point about data, Ethereum is the most transparent. Is definitely the most transparent of all of those. I don't know much about Doge, to be honest, so maybe I could be wrong there. But in terms of everything being out in the open, transactions, all the historical transactions you've ever made, there's no way to hide any of that stuff. And that's where I really like Zcash, is that if you use a shielded wallet, none of your financial data is ever going to be released. You know, like, only you can divulge that information. So it's really hard to say in terms of how do you, like, it depends. Like, and also I want to say is, like, just because Ethereum is awesome and has an amazing developer group doesn't mean they've won the battle yet. You know, like, there's still several competitors out there, and still relatively early on in the space, where if the masses move to Binance Smart Chain or Avalanche or, you know, whatever, Solana, whatever, just because they got a great viral meme and like people like as the masses start to come in like in a large way, things go viral and fees are like a cent, like relative to F. Just because they have an amazing team doesn't mean they're going to win this outright. So it's still early to call victors, I think, right now. But yeah, I think privacy is huge, and it will be even bigger in the future. Just to your point, data is an incredibly valuable commodity right now, and people are willing to shill out cash just to acquire data on any aspect of our lives. And I think financial data is among the most sticky data there is. So yeah, that's why Zcash makes a lot of sense, and it's HTTPS to Bitcoin's HTTP.
So we have talked about the Bitcoin, Doge, Elon market complex. We've explored some of that. We've explored whether we think Elon's a supervillain or a superhero. I'd like to introduce a new complex here that I'm beginning to identify that's emerging. Maybe you guys can help shed a little bit of light on this. I'm a little confused. But talk to me about this Ethereum, Shiba, Vitalik market complex that's forming. Have you guys heard the most recent developments?
So I'm pretty sure what happened is Vitalik's legal team got to him and said, hey, you owe a ton of money in taxes unless you do some kind of good faith, like virtue signal here. And it was kind of recommended, like, hey, you should just sell everything and then take the proceeds and donate them all. And then that'll help just like offset. Like, you won't have any gains because you'll have like sold everything. You donate everything, all proceeds, and then you can use that to offset some of your other capital gains. And so let me see if I can find the list. He like rug pulled all of these coins. And the thing is, what's terrible is he didn't just rug pull. Like, these projects were stupid enough to give Vitalik the LP tokens for the liquidity pools, meaning like both sides of like the Uniswap pool. So Vitalik also got a ton of ETH along with, and he donated all of that too. And it was it's a sad day. I don't know, like for the world, it's a good look on Vitalik. For like rational people who didn't invest in dog coins, it's a good look on Vitalik. For people that FOMO'd into dog coins, they're never going to buy ETH again. They're going to be Binance Smart Chain investors for life.
Welcome to crypto. But that's like, they were probably always going to be Binance Smart Chain people, just because it's cheaper. But yeah, just echoing Tyler's point, I don't think he necessarily, he probably did get with some tax representatives because the way he made the move was very tax advantageous, but also the entire network was crazy clogged over the last couple of days. Yesterday, right before he did it, Gwei prices were over 600. And like in a typical day, you can see about 200 as kind of it'll get your transaction done relatively quickly. But yeah, like there were some astronomical Gwei prices. And so I think he did it to just protect his network, protect his like kingdom. And it worked because today gas prices were low hundreds up to 200. And so yeah, I think that's one of the reasons, but also just in terms of like the tax advantage, all of this stuff is like super illiquid, just super illiquid, especially since he removed like a lot of the liquidity on Uniswap and everything. So he donated, as you can see in the headline, like $1 billion worth of Shiba to the India COVID relief fund. But in reality, that might be worth like at most 100 million. Like at
Well,
most.
he also so he also gave them 500 ETH. So he gave 1,000 ETH to and all of the Elon coin to the Methuselah Foundation. And they are focused on like life extension, like trying to make I went and looked at it. They're trying to make 90 the new 50 by 2030 is their goal. And then he gave 1,050 ETH to Miri, which is an AI safety organization, I guess trying to keep AI from killing us all. And then he donated the 10% of his SHIB plus 500 ETH to the India. And then he donated 500 ETH to Charter Cities Institute. And I don't know where the rest of it went, but those were the notable transactions.
And the brilliance behind that is like he gets credit, like tax credit, for the entire amount that he donates, not like what they actually end up getting. Like he gets credit for $1 billion that he donated but they're only going to get maybe $100 million. So it's like there was definitely some like coordination there, but yeah, I do think it was just to protect this network at the end of the day.
That's wild. Okay, so what did he do to Shiba Coin? Did it tank? I mean, apparently they had given him a lot of it per their white paper, right? Like, was it was in their white paper, or what was the point of that? Was it just to say that, we're gonna have Vitalik hold all this coin, so let's just sell that and let's buy it, or you should buy it based on the fact that this is in Vitalik's possession. He centrally holds this coin, and then he rugged everybody. Is that what happened?
Yeah, nobody believed he would rug everybody because, like,
did he ever agree to accept that coin? Did he ever want any part of it? So why did people think that something like this would happen? Did they think that he just wouldn't check his MetaMask?
No, absolutely. Like they were just, if you're going to create a token, you can do whatever you want with it. And, this was a way to just be transparent, be like, hey, we're going to send 50% to Vitalik. He doesn't need this money. He's never going to rug us. And like, we're not doing anything wrong. We're using his system. We're paying gas fees, yada, yada, yada. And then it just congests the entire network. If that had never happened, like, I don't think, like if gas prices were all just around 200 or whatever, I don't think he would have rugged everybody. But because they were just crazy high, like I've never seen them that high yesterday, I think he just was like, I've had enough. You guys are going down.
I spent $280 on a transaction fee and it failed.
So can somebody break this down for me? We all know ETH fees are high. Apparently sometimes they go up and down based on certain things. What I'm hearing you guys say is that part of him donating $1 billion or whatever, and the LP tokens as well, and therefore essentially the ETH that went with it, that was large enough of a transaction to somehow have an effect on the system to lower gas fees?
So gas fees rise when the network is utilized more, right? That's why the reason why gas fees are high in the first place is because of DeFi and everybody transacting on the ETH network. But because of the popularity of all these DOG tokens amongst retail users, these are tiny micro transactions that made it almost impossible for legitimate users to, not that they're not legitimate users, but just like there were much smaller transactions that were just clogging the network. It takes time to solve every block and to process every transaction. And so, yeah.
And you can also think about it. So like think about how mining pools have like switching algorithms to switch to what's most profitable. Well, every smart contract points to one like pool that they're targeting their smart contract at, which a lot of them it's Infuro hosts a lot of the nodes. And so it's like they're targeting their smart contract at certain nodes, which are supported by different mining pools. And like when one smart contract's really popular, then it takes the resources away from all of the other nodes that are possibly being pointed at by other smart contracts. Also, what you were seeing the other day was people were paying $70 in fees for $30 to buy $30 worth of sheep. Like people were willing to pay 2x their investment value. And so it's like miners were just like, yeah, because not only they were able to front run the transactions also. So it just kind of took a lot of the computational power away from the whole network.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So really the congestion was being created by this flourishing ecosystem of dog shit coins, right? Like these this little trading ecosystem that kind of flourished in the wake of Doge and Doge's retail popularity recently. The obsession over, the cute little dog. What kind of dog is it? It's a Shiba. Oh, cool, new coin. That'll get people, right? And then that whole thing flourishes. It clogs up the ETH ecosystem because this is not a Binance Smart Chain where you can do that and it be fine, right? This is ETH and it's going to get clogged with those microtransactions. So it was essentially like in the big scheme of Vitalik being Ethereum God, he pretty much just cleared the order book and wiped out a bunch of stuff with the God move that probably solved a lot of his problems. And it was probably just the most obvious thing for him to do if you were him. So I just think that's incredible. So thank you guys for walking me through that. So here we are. We've talked about, two different kind of systems, the Bitcoin, Doge, Elon thing, and then the Ethereum, Shiba, Vitalik thing. I got to throw a third thing in the mix. I just want to put these three people out there let's put roles behind this. We got Elon Musk, crypto space. We got Vitalik, who's been around in crypto space. We got Barry Silbert. What who's a superhero? Who's a super villain?
I just want to interject. There are a lot of people between verse 2 and Barry that like.
So let's take it. Okay, Ro, you're right. Let's take it in piecemeal, in manageable bites. Who's what? Elon and Vitalik. What,
Elon is part of a cohort that helped create Bitcoin, ultimately financed or ultimately backed by Peter Thiel. That's who I have always believed was Satoshi. And so I do think he was very close. And I think there's a lot of signals that point to that. So I think whereas like Peter Thiel might be Mario, I think the Wario impersonation on SNL was particularly apt because it's like Elon's doing his own shit. He's busy with SpaceX and Tesla and Solar City and all this shit. I think he's just there to just fuck around and introduce chaos into the world. And that's what he's doing with Doge. But I do think what he's doing with Doge is also serving a real world purpose. This digital ecosystem needs some sort of cash. It could use the US dollar, but if the US dollar drops incredibly rapidly, why would everybody measure their stuff in USDT or USDC? It doesn't really matter. It's not like an appropriate digital cash. And so I do think what he's doing with Doge makes a lot of sense. Vitalik, super, super genius. Like, just, he's going to live until he's 140 minimum. Like he's already doing the life elongation stuff. But he's, yeah, and like, what he created, smart contract like foundations. I think what he will do, and he's like really big into donating. Like, he donates a lot, and he was part of a team that created like this quadratic funding formula, where if you have two parties that donate $500 each to a cause, that gets less money than if 500 people donate $2 each to a cause. Even if that, it's just like, it's pretty cool. I would look about quadratic funding. And then Barry is just scum of the earth. Just like, got in early, investor, had a lot of money to begin with, just saw, like, kind of like, I like Mark Cuban, don't get me wrong. And I do think Mark is more of like a entrepreneur and has done shit. But I think Barry, I don't think he's really done shit. He just saw a trend and capitalized on it early. And like, he just pumped Ethereum Classic to top 10, which is stupid. But those are my thoughts on those three. So Tyler, fuck, marry, or kill.
So I think that Elon is like the evil genius, like he's the misunderstood evil genius. And that Vitalik is like an alien, like he's not of this world, that like he's kind of like a rare, like him being in the situation that he's in, like is very unique. And it's interesting. And I think that Barry wants to be a superhero, but like he also wants to take over the world. And it's like his plan is so GBTC's like trading it below value, and the target is for it to trade at 40% of book to value, because that's what ETFs usually do. And so he's trying to get an ETF before the GBTC ratio gets destroyed. And so like he's trying to be a superhero for the space, but he's also trying to like make sure that he covers his butt too. And so I don't think he's really a superhero. Mark Cuban wants to be a superhero. He could be a superhero. Dave Portnoy wants to be a superhero, but like he's not.
So based off your analogy, I feel like Mark Cuban has a chance to be Batman, but the best Barry could hope for is Robin. None of them have superpowers.
Do you follow Haralabob?
No, I don't.
I feel like Haralabob could be a superhero if he wanted to be, but he's too busy just like being rich and flexing. We got a bunch of wannabe superheroes, and we need somebody to step up.
I think we only have two superheroes right now. We have Elon Musk and we have Vitalik. And Elon Musk is now the face of Bitcoin and Doge, because I guess Michael Saylor's letting him have it. And then Vitalik as the face of Ethereum. I think they're both superheroes. I think that Elon is a superhero of good disguised in a veil of evil. And I think that Vitalik is a superhero of evil disguised in a veil of good. And I think Barry works for both of them and does their dirty work. But of course, he's never going to be a superhero. He's It's Barry Silbert. That's where I'm at. That being said,
we can't forget Satoshi. Satoshi is like the Superman of them all.
well, we've already covered Satoshi in those two.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't think that Satoshi was actually one person.
I agree with that. Like, but it would take a team, maybe hypothetically, but people interacted with Satoshi on Bitcoin Talk. You know, like he wrote forums and answered questions and had discourse with a lot of people.
Well, maybe a lot of people had discourse on his behalf.
That's definitely fair.
I still think Satoshi's the guy that's in jail. That when COVID got started, he got, as a protected person, they removed him from the jail, and he got access to a cell phone. He started a Twitter account. That Twitter account was suspended within like 2 days.
I think Joe Biden is Satoshi.
He wouldn't remember.
All right, I want to kind of ask this question. A couple questions. Where are we in the market cycle? Kind of bringing it back to Ethereum, bringing it back to this Doge hype. Doge tends to kick off alt seasons. What is it? I mean, is Doge even that anymore? And really, you've got these superheroes out and about moving markets, or at least that's my interpretation of it. What is the retail investor supposed to do right now? Is it just continue to stack sats? If you don't know what you're doing, this is a crazy, crazy world. There's a lot going on. This is the Wild West in this new space. So as a retail person, should you even be in crypto? And if you are, what should you be doing? Has that changed? Where are we in the cycle?
I mean,
coins are so last year. It's cat coins time. That's all I'm saying. Cat coins.
I don't think retail needs to play with DeFi. I mean, maybe if they do, they need to play with stables only and not get into any of the speculative yield coins. But I think that if they just wanted exposure, the assets that are highly available on all the Link, Sushi, ZRX, Wi-Fi. I mean, those seem to be the ones. Curve, is that also highly available? And is Uniswap also listed on Coinbase? Not sure. No. Yeah. And then ETH also is a DeFi play. I mean, you know, I don't know if you want to pump new money into that, but I feel like that would be the safe place right now.
I actually have a friend who is not in crypto and, you know, is pretty active in the stock market right now. And I sent him a text today. Is like, Bitcoin is sub 50K. I think our floor is 42 to 38. So if you are thinking about getting into crypto, I would start dollar cost averaging now. If all you want to do is get into Bitcoin. You know, he's not sophisticated in crypto at all, so I wasn't going to recommend just some random alt plays. And he seems more conservative in nature, so I wasn't going to try and get him into a bag of Zcash or whatever. But yeah, I told him to. That's my advice to people right now is, you know, Bitcoin's at 50K. Start dollar cost to averaging. You know, you're not going to make life-changing money this cycle, but if you hold for 10 years, you will likely make life-changing money. So yeah. That being said, if you are willing to dabble, then I do agree with Tyler and like, don't go chasing yields just because you will get rugged at some point. But if you do like buy the governance tokens Like if you buy Aave, if you buy Compound Maker, these kind of relatively blue chip DeFi names, I think that's a good way to play the space. And there are indexes that you can buy right now. And the thing about DeFi is that these are like cash, like you actually can value these companies because of how much cash they generate on a quarterly basis or on a yearly basis. And so while they don't have the same like overhead cost of companies, they do have cash flows. And those are very useful in terms of valuation. And with the space being so institutional now, that is what a lot of institutions use to value protocols. Um, and from what I'm seeing right now, it's the space is definitely undervalued. So I would encourage exposure to that space, even if you are getting into it. You just don't go chasing yields.
All right. So if I hear you, Ro, you're saying, you're not going to get rich if you don't know, if you're not really comfortable with the space and you're getting in now, don't expect to get rich. And, a lot of these pump and dump coins, they're pretty risky. And if you're chasing getting rich that way, understand what you're dealing with. But you can still get rich. It's just going to take a reasonable amount of investing time. And you kind of talked about some of the areas to look at. So I think that was great. Tyler, what do you think, man? What would you say to regular folks right now? We're just kind of considering where we are, and we're still having. It's constant, but we're sitting at $50,000 Bitcoin at a 40% dominance.
So I think that everybody should be responsible, and they shouldn't invest more than they can afford to lose. I was fortunate, and I took out a loan at the right time, but I also had a good job at the time, and it was well within my like affordable balance to pay that payment. And so it was risky, but it was a calculated risk. And I don't think anybody should put themselves or their families in a position to where like that, they should like bet the farm. But you're also never going to get rich if you come in and you diversify. So you need to make one or two strong conviction plays, get in before the price goes up, and diversify. And when one of those goes up a lot, you spread it, and you add, you double, you triple your other conviction play. Like, don't gamble, don't like buy what you see on TikTok. Like, do research, buy something that hasn't gone up a lot, and when it does, trim, and pad your other position. And that's like if somebody does want to get rich, like that's the only way to get rich in one cycle. If you just want to like, if you got more money to play with, then you probably want to spread it out and, invest in maybe 5 or 10 things, and just look to, like what Rose said, hold for 10 years, and you're going to be way better off than if you ever try to make any trades. If you just make 2 or 3 picks that are right. But yeah, that would be the thing, is if you got a lot of money, diversify, invest, hold. If you don't have a lot of money, make 2 conviction plays, and when one of them goes well for you, add some to the other and then pick another.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in general, I'm thinking right now, just total crypto market caps. And I haven't really done this exercise myself, but right now we're around 2 trillion approximately. I don't know exactly, but yeah, around 2 trillion. And for the first time, you know, for the longest time, $1 trillion market cap was the goal. Like holy shit, like this should be $1 trillion asset class, and now we're here. And it's very much the case that like I feel that this should be at least $100 trillion market cap. And I don't think it's going to take that long to get to $100 trillion market cap. Um, I think what will be interesting is that over the course of the next 10 years, we could very well get to a 1 quadrillion market cap, which like that's going to take a long time. But like if you value everything with just the derivatives in the world, all the derivatives in the world, um, you know, it's over 4 quadrillion, over four, maybe even more than that. It's just really hard to calculate how much there is, and that's what the use case for crypto is. It's like this backstop of the global financial system. And so, yeah, I think over the next 10 years, we will see a crazy like increase in the total capital within crypto. But right now it's at 2 trillion. And I think in the next year or two, maybe 3 years, we could get to 100 trillion.
Okay. So, I would say I agree with both of you guys, and just the general outlook on crypto, and good advice for different strategies and different positions. I'll try to just kind of summarize my thoughts for the retail investor. I would probably look at just the rising tide and the growing ecosystem of crypto as the first thing. And I would say that you should put as much money that you can, that you want to invest, save, or put aside, that you don't need for bills and everyday life, into crypto. I think that the tide is turning, and I think that you're giving yourself a chance for your money to grow in crypto as crypto grows. That being said, I think that there are a couple of particular areas to keep in mind that were mentioned before. It's risky. There's some stuff that has a purpose, and there's some stuff that doesn't have a purpose. So I would recommend looking at Bitcoin as something that's extremely safe. Now, you'll have other stuff that will do better in the short term and the long term, but Bitcoin is stable aspect to crypto world. So that's important. Dominance will go up and down, but it's important that that stays intact. So that's a good safe place. Ethereum will be what people use to build this new world. And there will be a whole ecosystem within that. So I think that has stability as well. And then the third thing that we actually talked about was Doge. But whether it's Doge or another type of social currency, I think that that's important in the consideration of how crypto world is developing around human societies. So I would kind of look at that in terms of safety, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then a Doge type of situation. And really look out into the future and say that, well, without those three elements, you really can't have an ecosystem, a financial, monetary, incentivized ecosystem built in crypto space that truly reflects the intentions of society without at least those three components. So I think investing in an ecosystem like crypto that is going to attract more and more people and be developed and gain in value, we're going to go through a period of time, many periods of times, ups and downs, where we try a bunch of experiments. And a lot of those experiments will outperform the 3 coins or concepts that I just mentioned in the short term and potentially in the long term. But from a safety perspective, from a giving yourself a chance to just rise with the tide and to do better for yourself than you can, like was mentioned, jumping around, chasing around, deploying a strategy, because that's not for everybody. I think that looking at those three concepts are pretty secure. So put a little bit in Bitcoin. That's what I've always done. At some point, if you feel good about that and you look at Ethereum and that makes sense, you want to kind of get a little bit more involved in the crypto space and have a little bit more chance of, being a part of something that literally is being used to build things, that growth factor there, look at that. And then make sure that you can understand what place it fits in the ecosystem if you look beyond that. And that's kind of where conviction comes in. That's kind of where a little bit more, a little bit more risk comes in. But if you're not trying to bet, you're not trying to gamble, they're the top market cap for a reason. So yes, we're not financial advisors, nor do we give a shit how anybody else does except for ourselves. Because, we're trying to figure out what makes sense for us here. And I think everybody should do that. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
I like that. That was awesome. I tend to agree with that as well. I think that was really well put. I will add, privacy is going to be important in the future too. So buy Zcash.
Well, speaking of that, somebody tweeted, and I don't know if it was confirmed, but there was some mobile wallet that did an atomic swap Bitcoin to Monero transaction from a Monero mobile wallet the other day. And nobody knows who it was that did it, but I don't know if it was confirmed, but that's what it looked like on chain.
Right on. Yeah, Monero's solid, but it's not true privacy. It's just this they just send a bunch of dummies, and one of these transactions is a legitimate transaction. So if you know where the sender came from, or if you can piece together one piece of data, you can actually piece together the entire transaction. So also, back in 2017, I lost a fuck ton of money going along Monero. And so that one stung.
This will be interesting. I would love to go around the horn and ask what your biggest loss was in.
Realized or unrealized?
Realized. You took
realized
it on the chin, you hit the ground, and then you got up, but you hit the ground.
Definitely Monero.
Tyler, what about you?
Either flash crash liquidations on Kraken, happened multiple times, or an ICO investment into Crowd Machine.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. I tend to be a little bit more risk averse. I try to focus on capping my downside. So I don't have anything that extreme. Probably my biggest crypto related loss right now is actually the Coinbase stock that I'm still holding. I don't think I've lost, like with this market, I don't think I've ever lost money on crypto because I don't trade as much, right? So, I'm generally accumulating and holding. And even if I accumulate and the price goes down, right now, everything's up. So I can't even say that I've actually lost money on crypto. maybe closed a couple positions, like, 10, 20% down at some point, but I don't even remember. But my Coinbase stock is really, really a pain in my ass right now. So
Just another reason to jump ship, man. Just another reason.
yeah, I've got plans for you, Coinbase stock. I really do. I've got some plans for you.
As a fund, what's our biggest loss? The thing that comes to mind is Walton Chain, but I don't know if that's our biggest.
No, I don't know if I really want to talk about this. We've done some stupid stuff. We could talk about it, but like, I mean, I think there was a Z alternative, there was a Bitcoin alternative, there was bad timing. Um, you know, I don't even know where to start.
Z Classic, Bitcoin Private. Oh man, that one was. I forgot about that.
No, we pulled our money. We pulled our investment out of that, and we let the rest ride.
We had some very large unrealized gains that turned into a whole lot of nothing real fast.
Yeah, I would agree. I think one of the reasons that we're pretty effective these days at what we do is because we've been through a lot of mistakes. And, it's been difficult to learn how we all operate, how we handle mistakes, how we develop strategies. But, finding that congruency is important and it takes time. And so through all those mistakes and just really painful situations, I think that we're a lot more prepared for this cycle, and it shows. But yeah, we wouldn't be here without all of the struggles and the coins that went away. And I mean, we even lost Monero because we couldn't figure out how to like send it from somewhere to anywhere. And it's all part of it. It's you go through that one time, and if you're going through this stuff multiple times, you're not doing very good. But like, yeah, we've been through a lot. We've learned from mistakes, and we're still learning from mistakes. We're still making mistakes, but when you go back and you think about them, like, gosh, we had a lot. We had a lot of mistakes. We lost a lot of money.
Make it back on one trade.
Well, cool.
100 times leverage. Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, we're winding down a little bit, but what else is on our minds? Anybody seeing some fun stuff out there? No? Okay. Yeah, nobody has anything fun. I'm just seeing a lot of euphoria. And it's spreading to different markets, spreading to institutions, to possibilities. Old people are talking about Dogecoin, and they're joking about it because I saw it on Saturday Night Live. I think this is kind of getting to certain aspects of 2017. I think in some ways we're farther along, in some ways we're not quite there. I also think that a 2017 type situation would be easier to sustain at this point. I don't think it would be cut short. Like a lot of us felt like our 2017 experience was cut short. I generally think this can go on for a little while, but a lot's happening. Last thing I'll say is, man, isn't 90% Bitcoin dominance, like, isn't that just kind of the norm? Whenever we're not in an alt cycle, we're at 40% dominance. People have called for a 30% dominance. I've heard a couple of people call for a 20% dominance. I would argue for a 10% dominance, and I don't know if you guys would necessarily disagree that that's possible. Yeah, I don't know. This is getting close to uncharted territory.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin is amazing, and it will always be amazing because it was the first of its kind, and it served its function in society, or in at least the cryptosphere. Uh, but at at this point, like the pace of innovation lies elsewhere. Bitcoin cannot like replicate or even replace the entire financial system on its own, whereas crypto as a whole absolutely can. And so I think there's always going to be a place for Bitcoin. Uh, but again, coming back to the analogy, you got to have gold, you got to have like a financial system, which would be Ethereum, and then you got to have cash in order to really create an entire ecosystem for everything to work together. And there are going to be other pockets as well, of financial innovation, like I don't know specifically, but like privacy. That's a good one. You can have DeFi, right, with lending and borrowing. You're going to have all of these other pockets as well. Cross-chain interoperability and oracles. All of these things kind of fall in the crypto sphere. And I think ultimately they're going to be much larger than, in aggregate, they're going to be much larger than what Bitcoin will be and what Bitcoin can be. At least that's the way it should be in my mind.
What you think, Tyler? Any any closing thoughts?
I mean, if it breaks the all-time low dominance, then I mean, in that situation, we're in a full-blown. It's not just an ETH flipping in; it's everything running. And with the price that everything's at right now, global exposure, it's like the next target after the right now would be around 7% dominance. And because I mean, if it's going to drop past that 32, if it's going to drop past the previous dominance low, then now we're like trying to find a floor. And so it's like, where's the floor? I mean, the next fib level down is around just over 7% dominance. And it's like, that would make sense, right? It's like, it's like, we don't know, but like, say Chainlink runs to $1,000 or Litecoin runs to $1,000 or Dogecoin runs to $3 or $4 or like any of this stuff happens, or like Zcash tries to find parity with Bitcoin, like in a world where any of that stuff happens, then yeah, then we could get below 10%. Now, what's scary is if we dip below that 7%, because it's like, then it's going to be so easy to FUD Bitcoin.
The only way I see it getting down below 10%, the Bitcoin dominance, is if there's a new Bitcoin. 10% is significant, because if you break that, it's really irrelevant. And so unless there's a Bitcoin replacement, our society's been built on gold. The financial system has been built on that. And so should mining become targeted again, should it become completely replaceable by a truly proof of stake Bitcoin or a Bitcoin 2.0, something that arguably is a better gold, then yeah, you could have Bitcoin drop below 10% and lose all relevance. But I think to some degree, the closer you get from where we are now, 40% down to the 20% and even 10% range, the stronger Bitcoin gets. But if it snaps that, it's all bets are off. I think that's bad for the crypto space, because it truly does become a mania. You're talking about a literal run on the bank at that point becomes probable. But I do think that up to 10% could be really healthy. My question is, if we do get down to the 20%, not even 10%, if we do get down to 20% Bitcoin based on what we've seen in past alt cycles where this kind of thing happens, how quickly does it snap back? How quickly does it snap back? If we stay around 40%, let's say we get even close down to 30%, 35%, nothing too crazy from here. How quickly could it snap back? How quickly could the flow of money back into Bitcoin happen? How long before the doors close?
If you knew that, like that would be awesome, right? Everybody wants to know that, but I would say it's pretty difficult to tell. A lot of factors are at play. The hodler community. How many people are holding Bitcoin? Are they willing to depart from Bitcoin? If you had 10,000 Bitcoin back in the day, and you see what ETH did, and you're just like, okay, it's time to move it. Maybe not into ETH, but my Bitcoin is not what I thought it was going to be. You're seeing dominance fall to wherever it is right now, 40%. There's so many factors at play, and I guess what I think really in terms of like the staying power is that while this market is not mature, it is so much more mature than 2017. It is orders of magnitude more mature and more developed than it was 3 years ago. And so I do think that if things flip Bitcoin, they will likely have more staying power than not. Because at this point, it's not just retail. There's a lot of smart money that are moving into assets, and that will have to move into assets that push the entire market cap of crypto down to where Bitcoin dominance falls to sub 20%. And that's not to say things won't fluctuate back and forth, but I think if things flip Bitcoin, there's this old saying, like, if things happen once, it might not happen again, but if things happen twice, it'll definitely happen a third time. And I think that's probably apt here, is like, if something flips Bitcoin, okay, cool. It had its hype, but if something flips Bitcoin again, then that's, to me, like, okay, that's here for good. So.
Nice. Okay. Any other thoughts before we close up?
Yeah, I think that the Bitcoin dominance snapping back is like, it's kind of what they're looking for, right? Is like this whole song and dance is like market makers bringing retail to slaughter. And I think that snap back and forth to Bitcoin dominance is kind of one of the signals that they're looking for to know when to pull their liquidity from the alt market cap, right? It's like once it hits to a certain threshold, if they pull the rest of their liquidity from the alt market cap, then it goes back. So, I don't know. I think that there's going to be a lot of those this time. Bitcoin's been pretty quiet, and I think that it's let a lot of alts get a good US dollar valuation. And I think that we're going to see Bitcoin get violent soon. And yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think it's gonna almost kind of look like the US, like the fell of a currency, but we'll see. Who knows?
Be careful out there. All right, cool. Great call, guys. I think we we're tracking a few different things. We're tracking Bitcoin, Doge, Elon. We've been tracking that kind of ratio there, the developing ecosystem potentially, and this new cycle of crypto, relevance of Doge being considered. Valuations are getting higher. Bitcoin dominance is getting lower. So there's really no question about where we are in terms of type of market. But of course, we still have questions about where we are in this cycle, in this alt run, in this May that we're 13 days into and getting rugged by Vitalik and Elon. So very, very interesting stuff going on. I think we'll have more stuff to talk about. And I appreciate you guys chiming in. Thoughts? It's great. Good call.
Good call.
All right. Till next week.